With back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism, here is Ryan Tootell and Colter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. Week 2 of Big Sky Conference play. Rocking and rolling. Just like us. With our good buddy Sean Rainey. It is Tootell and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio. Outstanding to be with you here on a Tuesday afternoon. Hope you are having a fantastic day. Thanks for spending some of it with us on your radios across Western Montana on ESPN and across the state on SWX Montana. Hi, how are you? Great to be with you. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you would like to check out the show and you are out of market, or maybe it's just easier, hiding from your boss at work, you get online. That's fine. Well, wouldn't you do that? I mean, that makes sense, right?
There's like this piece of software that like lets you exit out of all the things that you have on your webpage that somebody created.
Yes.
It was from one of the creators of a Reddit site, so that it was people that was reading college football message boards.
And also
because they want to be able to get away with reading the E-Grizz and the Bobcat Nation while they're at work.
Well, that's what you got to do, man. You got to be ready to do what you want to do while you do what you have to do. That's what I've found.
And that's why I picked the job that I have. And
that's
you
right.
guys have the job that you have.
Right.
We don't have
Rady
to
gets to watch.
work, right?
Rady actually has to watch all the games that are on the TV every single night.
Exactly. If my boss walked in and I was looking at stocks, she'd be like, "What are you doing?" Back on to ESPN. Anyhow, you go onto the website 1029ESPN.com. You listen to the stream. That's what you do, and you check it out anytime that you would like to. You listen live. We'll be happy to check you out there. We appreciate that. It's thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you want to call, 329-1899 is the phone number. 329-1899 the phone number. All guests join us via the Rangic Brothers RV phone line. Let's see what we got in the show today. Plenty in the show today. We got our good buddy Sean Rainey from SWX Montana in studio with us. He was at Davis, California for the beatdown that was the Grizzly UC Davis game last week. Of course, Sean does a great job as a sports anchor, sports reporter, all that stuff, and has a really, really interesting story that has just come out, a mini doc, really, a mini documentary that he's just put together that we will tell you all about as well. So we got that going. We will also, in about 30 minutes, be joined by Mike Boehm of the Watson Children's Shelter. He's the executive director, of the Watson Children's Shelter. So he's going to be in with us, talk about that. We will bring some high school scores in the mayhem that was both Montana and Montana State being in the top 10 yesterday. We did not even get to one of the games of the week, which was Frenchtown and Hamilton playing at the Class A level. So we will get into that, what took place, and Hellgate suffering their first loss of the season as well over the weekend. So we'll touch on some of that stuff. And then in the next hour, we will get to several items, including it is opening day of the MLB postseason. Happy October to you. So we will get we got an interview lined up for you on that, and we will also get your calls at that time to give you tickets to the Grizzly Idaho State homecoming game. So plenty to get to. It is brought to us by Missoula Gutter Cleaning. .com. You go online, Missoula Gutter Cleaning. They're the funnest, most insured group, and they bring us the show Outlook, MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. Sean, how are you, man? Great to see you.
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me,
Well,
guys.
we're certainly happy to see you. Happy to have you in here, and I know... What?
It's just amazing what we could get away with that Sean can't, and it's just so funny. Like, if Sean was sitting here dancing like I am in the middle of his newscast, people would be like, he lost his mind.
What's he do? Yeah, well, I mean...
And people that listen to this show know I already did lose my mind, so they're not worried about me.
Do you have to go to the bathroom? Is everything okay? You dancing around? Speaking of, you're in television. How's my hair today? I feel like I got a little Sean Rainey hair going on. I was kind of puffed up, light, feeling good. You know what I did?
What's that?
I washed it, and then I fell asleep. The old pillow comb, I call it. That's what I did. Sean, let's talk about the football game. Now we talked a lot about both the Montana Davis game and then the NAU Montana State game. But you were there, you were courtside, as it were, for the UC Davis Montana game on Saturday. And I must say, as impressive as a team could be, and you could talk about, look, UC Davis was on the road at North Dakota State the week before. They put up a really good game and played really hard, and maybe they were dialed into that. Maybe there's a little, letdown or something like that. But it's still Montana at home in the conference opener. I think if you're going to be up for a game, that's when you should be up for. And in watching this, I thought this was a lot more about the University of Montana than it was about UC Davis on Saturday. Couldn't have been more impressed in all three phases of the game with the Grizzlies. But as you were there in the moment watching this, what was your takeaway?
There's so many little things to dive into. I think that they were very much set up to give Davis something that they hadn't been prepared for.
Totally.
And they put a lot of things on film, and they played a lot differently in the games leading up to it.
Especially defensively, right?
Yeah, so
all the pressures they brought were brand new.
In the Monmouth game, I mean, they kept blitzing and blitzing and blitzing. They're bringing every linebacker almost on every single play, and they played pretty much all just coverage.
Right.
And so I think they threw in some wrinkles, but to me, kind of the biggest difference was, I thought a key sequence in the game, it was 14-7 with 5 minutes to go in the half, and they get the ball around their 20-ish, 25.
Yeah.
And they take 5 minutes off the clock, go all the way down the field. I know they wanted to punch it in, but they get a field goal. And then at halftime, so the locker rooms are set up where both teams have to walk up the same tunnel, and then they kind of have to walk around. So you kind of have to walk next to the team for a long ways. And Montana coming out for the second half, they just were all walking in as like one group, and almost like they were walking pregame. Like everybody was focused. And talking to Dalton Sneed, we had him on the taping of the Grizzly Sports Report, which you can watch tomorrow. He said he went over to every single group in that locker room and was just like 49-21, 49-21, 49-21, 49-21. That was the score, of last year's game.
Just reminding them.
And and they came out and just blitzed them to start the second half, which they've been doing to everybody except for Oregon, obviously. But I mean, they had the jump ball to Akem, turnover, touchdown to Jerry Lou McGee, and it was over.
When you talk about interpreting Hauk, which is my 4-year-old, I came home today. She said, "Dad, I'm learning French." I was like, "That's great. I'm learning Hauk." When you start to try and assess what kind of what he's saying without saying it.
Oh yeah.
Leading up to this game, he mentioned last Monday. Leading up to this game, I think he said, They got us good last year or something along those lines, just in passing, but mentioned it. Was asked after the game on Saturday if last year's game was something that he had talked about. And he said, not too much. But he didn't say no.
Mm-hmm.
They talked about what happened last year over and over
guaranteed.
And just got themselves worked into a lather and wanted to go send a message to UC Davis, to the conference, to the country about exactly what was and what is now for the University of Montana football team. And they message received, as far as I can tell, right?
100%. And after the game, and this is Dalton mentioned this, other coaches mentioned this is kind of the phrase that they've been saying, and I might get in trouble for saying this. I don't know if they want this out there. Who cares? This is Tootell and Nuanez here.
That's right. Just swear away, right?
Yeah. So the coaches, they're a bunch of Grizz fans up there, and after the game, they're all going up there and like, the evil empire is back, and that's kind of the phrase they've been rolling with. The evil empire is back, and you could tell that this was, just everything. The game last year, 4th in the country, on the road, start of conference play. You could tell that they wanted to go out there and send a message, and they did. And, it was big time. It's going to be – I'm very interested to see how they come out on Saturday because, I think this team has done a really good job in getting up for the games that they want to get up for. I'm very curious to see how they start, especially in the second or first half versus Idaho State.
Love to be hated. That was definitely one of the things that Bobby Hauk's first tenure was encompassed in. And, we have this new podcast, FCS Speculators, where we pick all the Big Sky games and a couple other games across the country against the spread and all that kind of stuff. It's fun. Check it out. But last week we got in a little bit of debate over this game because Ryan said I got Davis to cover and I got Davis straight up, and I said I got the Grizz straight up. And he asked me why, and I said Davis has only been this team that everybody else is chasing for half a minute, right? Just since the midpoint of last year, that's about it. When they were actually a top 10 team that everybody's coming after, whereas Montana used to be that for so long, and they've been trying to get back to that. But you could just tell. I want to get your observation on this because you're around these guys as much as anybody because you travel with them and you're in other areas besides when we just have a microphone and a camera in their face. But to me, it just seems like the confidence of this team is the biggest difference. We've been debating all the X's and O's and talent and all this stuff for so long. Does Montana just need better players? Do they just need better coaches? Do they need a better scheme? What I always thought is they just needed to get the mentality back. And it seems as if they're not quite there yet, but this team just seems way more confident. Does it seem like that to you?
Yeah, I mean and that's something that that Bobby, especially defensively, has been harping on and feels like they're there now is just that we're tougher than you, and we're just gonna grind you into the dirt. And I think you see that with a lot of the leaders on this team. Robbie Houck is probably the most when it comes to that. If you watch him defensively, Jace Lewis, like you get all these guys that they'll hit you and then they want to tell you about it.
Oh, Robbie Houck is hilarious to watch during games because he is literally 5'8" and he gets in. He's not backing down to anybody.
Oh no! After the game at Oregon, he got surrounded by like 10 guys afterwards, and they're like, "Man, you are tiny, but you are really good." They were like giving him a lot of praise because he was like flying all over the field. They have a lot of guys that I think as they get more and more confident, they knew that they had the potential to be good.
Yeah.
But I think now that they're seeing it, they are getting that confidence even more so. But this team is oddly focused as far as I think some of the Stitt teams, like when they beat Northern Iowa on the road, I think they almost got a false sense of confidence.
And you almost knew a letdown was coming, right?
Compared to, I don't know, just when I talk to some of the guys on this team, they're confident, but they also understand it's a long season and that was one game. It just feels a little bit different than in the past.
Tootell, Nuanez, ESPN Radio. Rashawn Rainey with us on SWX Montana Television as well, from SWX Television and on SWX Television. How about that? I mean, you came over here and you're home again. How great!
It's great.
When
that's like Corcoran came in here last week and he got to be on the TV for 6 hours straight because he went straight from here to the volleyball game. He's just on SW. It's Riley Corcoran on SWX.
That's right. When you talk about though, here's an interesting something that is always I think hard to assess, and that is the difference between a letdown and just not playing very well.
Totally.
And this is a game against Idaho State coming up now for Montana, where I don't think any of us expect a quote letdown, which we have seen in the past. But I certainly don't expect them to play as well as they played on Saturday, because how could you? I mean, it's almost impossible to play to that level, week in and week out. And so to look at, a team that comes out and, Montana obviously is going to be favored against Idaho State and all that, but whether or not they're able to, what level they're actually able to attain to when it comes to the word that every coach uses, execution.
Well, that's the next thing I think is the next step for this program, because you made a comment yesterday. You said you can never expect a team to get better every single week. That was the trademark of Coach Houck's teams the last 3 years of his first 7-year tenure. They the last 3 years, they honestly stopped scheduling FBS games because he literally did just want to play games they knew they could win, because he knew if the momentum started rolling, then by November, they're unbeatable.
But this is just a metaphor that we all three can relate to, and that's golf, right? You can go out and you can improve at golf regularly and feel better, but also go out and shoot a score that wasn't nearly as good as it was the week before because it just wasn't quite there, even though you knew, it's coming for me.
Totally.
And that can happen, right? Even in football, and does.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see because, so South Dakota, obviously, opener on the road, big-time game. They come out in the first half against North Alabama and are pretty flat.
Yep.
Roll them in the second half.
Yep.
Big game against Oregon on the road. They played pretty well. Come back home, kind of pretty flat again in the first half.
Yeah.
Same, and then we're going back out on the road, beat UC Davis. I'm very curious to see how they are in the first half, because I think it's human nature sometimes just to – it's very rare where you see teams play at that level just all the time. And so I'm just very curious to see, especially against a team like Idaho State, where they're good enough where if you aren't coming out from the get-go and you're struggling and it's maybe, tied, you're down by 1 score at halftime. Even if you then come out in the second half like you did against those other teams and start playing well, if you have a fluky turnover here or there, you could lose. So, this Grizz team showed us all a lot last week, but it's a long season. We're only a few games in. We still have to see it week in and week out if we're really going to start getting, that much excited and amped up about it.
And that's the most, when you're looking at what's the benchmark, North Dakota State's the benchmark.
Right.
North Dakota State has the best offensive line in the country they have for 8 years straight. That's a huge advantage. They've had 3 straight NFL quarterbacks. Huge advantage.
Their offensive line is better than the Bengals' offensive line by a lot.
I mean, truly though, I really would love to just put NDSU's offensive line compared to other college teams across the country because I really think they probably have a top 30, top 35 offensive line.
I don't think there's a question.
Right? I mean, they'd have like the 5th or 6th best offensive line in the Big Ten, straight up.
Yes.
And that's why. But what I'm getting at though is that those are certainly advantages. But the number one reason North Dakota State has dominated so much is because of the consistency like you're talking about, the consistency of operation. I can't remember a game in the last 130 that they've started slow and didn't finish strong. They start well and they finish strong. And whatever happens in the middle, okay, but they're going to grind you into dust. I'm interested to see what this Grizz team, though, too, is they're 4-1 right now because they've just absolutely owned the third quarter. Just owned it. And what happens if they start starting really fast, too? How does that combination work? Because if they can start fast, last year they were so good at starting fast. They haven't started fast this year, really. But then they've come out of halftime and dominated. If they could start fast and own that third quarter, now you're talking about a team that's actually a real national playoff contender.
It's Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Sean Rainey in studio with us from SWX Montana Television. And Sean, when you look at Idaho State, because Idaho State maybe had as impressive a performance as anybody. I mean, they were up 41-7 in the second quarter at one point over a Portland State team that had a really pretty good non-conference, showing 2-2, but took, Arkansas to the wire on the road and all that. So when you see Idaho State and Rob Fennessy, Bobby Hauck's, old mentee and offensive coordinator, and a team that's still got a ton of offensive talent, what do you expect out of this homecoming game Saturday?
I think the key for Montana will be defending the big play because Idaho State likes to throw it deep, and Montana has been a little susceptible to that. So that's kind of what I'm going to be keying on. But mainly, kind of like I talked about, I'm just very curious to see how Montana responds. Especially, you got a bye week on the horizon, so I'm just very curious to see how they come out in this one. But they got some big time. They got big wide receivers, a couple 6'3" dudes that are fast and big and physical. So the DBs will have their hands full. That and then just do we see the consistent balance on offense? Because we're talking about 268 yards passing, 260 yards rushing. It's becoming a well-oiled machine offensively. Yeah. Dalton Snead, 9 touchdowns, 704 total yards the last 2 weeks. That's
how you
rolling.
get to be offensive player of the week for those 2 weeks, just like that.
Last question from me. We talked about the pass rush. They brought a little bit different element of blitzes, stuff we haven't really seen, but also I thought that just the implementation of some of the young defensive linemen in the lineup, Milton Mamula, Jacob McGoring, both those guys played great. What sort of impact do you think those guys had? And what sort of impact can they have moving forward?
Yeah, well, I think, Bobby talks about it, like what they lack in strength and physicality. He said when they put those young dudes on the field, like they go at a different level. Like they are fast, they are explosive, and we're seeing that rotation, especially because Babros is kind of hurt and banged up and hasn't played. But we see McGowan and Mamula and Patrick O'Connell thrown in there. Like they're an explosive young group.
They are.
They're going to be really, really dynamic when it comes to later on. And how awesome is the redshirt rule now, because Babros gets hurt, so you can play McGowan for 4 games here while maybe he's hurt, maybe he comes back, and then you could save him for a redshirt rule. It's just awesome. And the offensive line, Dylan Cook played right tackle. I think Mallory has supplanted himself at the guard position. The dude is a beast. So it's certainly exciting, and with the win, the coolest part, for us, for Grizz fans. Everybody's just excited. There's the the buzz around town, and it just makes the the season and looking ahead. Everyone's just really excited and ready to go. And
it's so accentuated by the fact that the Cats had such high expectations coming into this year, and they're living up to them as well, despite some of their deficiencies. I mean, the fact that both these teams right now, 5 games in, are 4-1. And the losses are to Texas Tech and Oregon, and they're top 8 in the country. I mean, in my poll this week, I voted Montana 5 and Montana State 6. Excuse me, other way around. Montana State 5, Montana 6. But either way, I got them both in the top 6. That's pretty cool for the state of Montana just in general.
It's Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. About 10 minutes from now, Mike Boehm is going to come in here as the executive director of the Watson Children's Shelter, talk to us about the fundraiser that's forthcoming, which I am happy to be emceeing. We're going to raise some money for that great charity. He's going to tell us all about it and how we're going to do it. It's going to be really fun, so we'll do that. But, Sean, wanted to shift gears here quickly for a couple of minutes because you've just finished up a bunch of work to get a documentary together. I mean, everything you do, how you're doing a 20-minute documentary is outside. People don't appreciate the amount of work that goes into putting together a film. Okay, it's just an enormous amount. But there is a story that it's one that's controversial, but one that's also very intriguing. I think there's one that's very important as well, and that is of June Eastwood, who is the first openly transgender Division I athlete ever in cross-country athlete, and she is running here at the University of Montana. Just started there, and you have been tracking her and talking to her folks, Brian Schwain and the cross-country team, track team, all that. This is an impressive work that you've put out, by the way, so great work by you on that. But for people who are going, well, what is this and what is this story about? Tell them about it.
Okay, so June was a state champion in multiple different races in track from Belgrade and cross country. Came to Montana as Jonathan Eastwood, competed for a couple years, got injured, and when she got injured, that is when, because the theme throughout this whole thing is she knew growing up when she was 5'6", she knew that she was different. She always kind of felt like a boy, from the get-go. Knew around 11 or 12 after doing just kind of a bunch of research online. That's usually kind of the go-to place for a lot of people in that community because they don't feel comfortable maybe talking to friends and family. Found out that she was transgender around 11 or 12. Kind of kept it hidden because, she was so good at running in high school that was kind of her identity. Her identity was kind of mixed in with that as a runner. Mm-hmm. And so she felt like if she came out, then all of that would go away. So came to Montana as a runner, and then finally when she got hurt for the first time and had to sit out a full year, her identity as a runner was no longer there because she wasn't a runner. So she was kind of forced to, she went, was very depressed, had suicidal thoughts, and had to confront all of that. So came out and then decided, hey, I mean, you could either, not run anymore or decide to continue to run. So she sat out a full year taking hormone therapy. So she's on, anti-testosterone stuff for a year. That's the NCAA requirement. And now she's out and competing, and we kind of told her story as a human being all the way up and to that point. We talked to experts on the subject as far as, the fairness and competition and how that will impact that and moving forward and what everybody in this thing can learn moving forward. Because even her, Coach Schwain, and everybody involved, they don't know what is fair and what is not. They are just going by the NCAA guidelines and hoping that by her doing this, that her University of Montana, the NCAA, can get a better understanding, and then we can figure it out from there so it's fair for everybody. And they know the different, all the feelings involved in this, which I think is the misnomer here, is that she just wants to go out because she wants to win, and that's not the case.
Well, I know that there's a lot of people who, there's a lot of layers to this. When you talk about, there's social aspects to this, there's cultural aspects to this, there's obviously athletic, both sort of rule and ethics aspects to this, and there's very real human aspects to this. And there's some very poignant moments in some of the things of this that I have seen. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but that I think are very revealing. And I understand that a lot of people have very strong feelings about transgender and the transgender world in a lot of different directions. And I hope that this film, and I think this is part of what you wanted to do, can be a place where you can maybe approach this and it doesn't have to be in a, debate or in a, conversation that you feel is uncomfortable or whatever. You could take a look at this and learn one person's story and continue to, draw conclusions from that about the ongoing questions that this brings up. And I think that is really important. So, good for you for putting this out there, and we'll look forward to watching it.
And I got to say, I just got to stand up for Sean for a second here, too, because what people need to understand when they consume this story is that at the end of the day and the beginning of the day, it's about a human, right? It's just about a human. It's a story. This is not Sean's this is not Sean's opinion on what is fair or not. It's just addressing all of the layers of the story. And when this first came out, Twitter was going crazy and people were saying all sorts of dumb stuff. Just be nice to each other, please. Like, it's a great story. Just to consume it for what it is, because it is. It's a great story about humanity.
Well, and it is a story. Like, people,
it's a story.
A lot of people are
right.
saying, like, why are you even doing this? Why are you promoting this? Why are you doing this? Because it's a story.
It's what journalism is.
It's something historic that is happening, and it's happening right here in Montana, which is crazy when you think about it. I mean, it's the first ever.
Yeah.
And it's happening right here at Montana at one of our universities in this beautiful state. And that's why I'm telling it. Yeah. And I'm telling the human side of it. So I think, and I've had people watch it that disagree with it and say it's not fair. And they watched it and said that it was great.
That's the whole point, though. Everybody can have their whole opinion on it. I hope everybody does. I'm just saying, just be nice about it. Like, it's not, Sean is not standing on a platform here for anybody. He's just telling the story.
Yeah, and I'm not going out and saying even how I feel about it. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's not fair. I am just going out there and telling the story and letting you watch it, see what this human being is going through, and the bravery, whether you agree with it or not, the bravery that it takes to put yourself out there and be visible like this and be open to all of that hate. And what do we learn from this? I mean, that's kind of the thing. And we're going to keep, tracking her as we go along, pun intended. And as cross country goes. And then once we get into track season, that's when I think it's going to really heat up because she's going to, I think, do better in track. But she's already been contacted by HBO Sports. I bet ESPN comes knocking later on. So, I mean, this is going to be big, and I feel honored to be kind of the first to tell it, and because it's going to be picked up, I think, by a lot of national different media outlets. So.
Well, it's available now on abcfoxmontana.com, so you can go check it out. Or if you follow at Sean Rainey, it's on his Twitter feed as well. And I encourage you to watch it and think about all the different aspects of it, because there's a lot of them. Sean, thanks so much for being here, man. Great to have you in as always. Looking forward to homecoming this weekend. It's going to be always a fun time in the community. Get the parade going, get the game on. We're also in the Monty movie. After the end of the first quarter, he came by the station, and it's called Bad News Bear. So I don't know if I'm more excited for, the game or watching the Monty movie starring us. I mean, Rainey, listen. Now you're gonna go full TV here, where he's like, the game, the homecoming thing, Rob Fennessy versus Bobby Houck. That's okay, but I'll be on the jumbotron and getting tackled by Monty. That's pretty good. We'll take a break. Mike Bone, the executive director of the Watson Children's Shelter, joining us right after this. Stick around.
We don't really look at it that way. We look at it as that's for you all. You got to have something to fill your week with.
Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula is like your paint doctor. They take the pain out of painting. Don't trust your home to anything less than professional PPG paints from Garden City Paint and Glass. Go to visualizecolors.com. Scan in your room photo to see what color combinations will look best before painting. That's visualizecolors.com, featuring professional PPG paints. Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula, across from the Southside McDonald's at 3217 Brooks.
Hey folks, Ryan Tootell here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate. Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice. In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
Matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up, pump it up.
When you need a little extra brain power, head over to Town Pump. They've got what you need. 5-hour energy shots, 3 for $5. Plus, Old Trapper 10-ounce jerky, only $10.99. Get energized at your Town Pump right down the road.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
An opening reception for Festival of Remembrance is this Friday, 5 till 8 at the Artist Shop, 127 North Higgins, downtown Missoula. Honor, Remember is a group exhibition of mixed media by artists Bobby Tilton, Renee Taff, David Miles Lusk, Marlise Borchers, Patricia Thornton, Kathy Paoli, Gretel Stout, Katrina Rumland, Tim Thornton, and Bev Gluckart. Individuals are invited to contribute a small sentiment to the community shrine in honor of loved ones who have passed. Find a Festival of Remembrance on Facebook for more details on this month-long series of events.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tootell, Colter Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. For the third straight game, former Bozeman High School star Will Disley caught a touchdown pass from Russell Wilson for the Seattle Seahawks while playing tight end in their 27-10 win over the Arizona Cardinals Sunday. The former Washington defensive lineman who started playing offense for the first time since high school just 3 years ago in a career had a career-high 7 passes for 57 yards as the Hawks moved to 3-1 this season. Disley has now caught 4 touchdowns this season and 6 touchdowns in 8 career games, bounding back from a devastating torn patella tendon that ended his rookie season quickly last fall. The Seahawks play the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday. All the action can be heard right here on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Former Montana State star standout Kelvin Blevin signed a training camp contract with the Portland Trail Blazers Monday. The contract gives him an opportunity to make the roster with training camp opening on Tuesday. The 6'4 forward is the cousin of Blazers superstar Damian Lillard. A weekend snowstorm in north central Montana expected low temperatures caused this week's MHSA to reschedule the state class AA golf tournament. The tournament will still be held at the Meadowlark Country Club in Great Falls. It was originally slated to be held this week. It will be moved to begin October 8th. And finally tonight, the NL Wild Card. Milwaukee at Washington for the right to play the LA Dodgers. We'll have it for you on ESPN Radio right after the show.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Welcome back, boys and girls. It's time to talk about kids and tennis. I mean, is there a better combo on earth than that? It is Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. Boys and girls, I've been telling you all about this. Okay, Thursday, October the 10th, starts what is going to be a fabulous weekend across the city of Missoula as a fundraiser for the Watson Children's Shelter. It is a auction where we're going to auction off pro tennis players, great tennis players at the Barn on Mullen. I'll be down there to MC this thing. Can't wait to do this. And we are joined now in studio by a couple of folks associated with this. Scott, who is the tennis director at the Peak, and Hayden, who also works with Watson Children's Shelter. Hello to you both. How are you? Thanks so much for coming across town and being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. Well, so let's start here. This is year 2 of this event. Is that right? Ooh. Is it not for the tennis tennis auction?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
9 years.
Okay, so
yes.
when you thought about, Scott, I mean, you do tennis is what you're up to. You're over there at the Peak as the tennis director. When you talk about, okay, how can we make tennis help out the community? And then you got to get together with Hayden and the two entities come together and you go, this is what we're going to do. We're going to auction off pro tennis players and we're going to have a weekend-long tournament. How did that go?
Well, 9 years ago when we built the club, at the same time the shelter was being built, and so because
they're right close to each other, right?
They're
right
stones
across?
throw away from each other.
We're neighbors.
And when
you didn't sound too enthusiastic
no, it's
there,
great.
Hayden. Just
it's
like,
great.
God, is this the neighbor who's like always, throwing the glass clippings over the fence?
They might ask us that. We've got 24 kids at the house that are in the backyard all day long. So
they're being built though at the same time.
Yeah, 9 years being built at the same time. And when I came to town, I just saw an opportunity. When I was in Bozeman, I did a very similar thing, and I just said I wanted to do something for the community, and it was almost a no-brainer. Just walk down our sidewalk next door and approach the shelter, and the rest is history. 9 years later, here we are in our 9th year.
Hayden, tell us just how the money you guys will raise benefits the shelter. Yeah,
absolutely. So we 100% of the proceeds from this event go directly to the shelter and to helping the children and families that we support all year round. So for those of you that don't know, we're an emergency shelter in Montana, one of 2 that serve children, infant to 14 years old, and we just provide them safety, nurturing, stability, just a home, basically, that's safe for them to come to in a time of crisis for them.
And Watson Children's Shelter, like you said, 24 kids right now, and kids come for any period of time from maybe a day or 2 up until months long when they're in positions or families in places of crisis. But how do kids find Watsons, or how do you find kids? Maybe a better way to say it.
So social workers.
Yeah.
Social workers are the ones that refer kids to come to us, and we don't have a say necessarily in who comes. There are services that we offer, and sometimes kids need other services that we aren't able to offer, so those kind of decide. But for the most part, abuse, neglect, abandonment, family crisis, sometimes people just need a hand, and we're there to be there for those kids. And like you said, they can be there for a day. Sometimes they're there for a year or longer.
How many kids can stay there? How many people can be taken care of at Watson?
So 24 kids at a time.
So you're maxed out right now.
We are, and we normally are. There are occasions when we've got some room open, but everything is pretty much filled. Like if a room becomes available within a day or 2, that room is filled.
And Hayden, when it comes to taking care of kids who have been in, and very recently probably been in, some pretty terrible situations and circumstances, how do you go about just trying to, like you said, stabilize their environment and their just life for a period where they can just be?
We have an incredible direct care staff, and they are the people that work with the kids every single day. So like I am in development, I help with the fundraising part of this job. There are on-call staff. There are people that stay. We are a 24/7 shelter. So staff are there with the kids at all times, and they are there to be that familiar face when they wake up in the morning or when they're scared in the middle of the night. It's going to make me cry. All of those things, they're always just there, and they make it a home for them, and they make them feel safe and let them know it's okay to be scared, and that we're there to protect them.
Well, and when you talk about the absolutely critical and beautiful work that is done, it's also very hard work. And when you talk about taking care of 24 kids, I got 3, okay? I got to take loans out on the weekly to make this happen. You got a couple. Yeah, we know 24 is a big number. And then when you talk about the human resources of caretaking for these kids, who the 24 hours and stuff like that, it's a big financial necessity in terms of making that run and making it run well so that they are properly taken care of. Scott, when you've been up to this and you said, hey, you know what, we can make this happen. How can we make this bigger each and every year? What kind of came to your mind in contributing and being a part of this thing?
Well, just getting pros to come in and from out of town to be a part of this. We have a few here in town. We started off with 20 the first year, went up to 32. Now we're back down to 28 each that we will auction off. But it's an amazing thing for me when I send reminders out to these guys to invite them to come back. How, especially our celebrity pros, the ones that have been on the pro tour and have experienced that pro life, that they look at it and say, we're in within 24 hours. I mean, Florida, Virginia, New York, they come. And I think this year we have 11 states represented with pros coming in from out of state. So yeah, it's the people make the event, and the cause is why they come, and that's the main thing. And it's always a pleasure when we see. We don't know exactly what the check is that comes out, but when we do raise the money we raise, it tickles me a lot to know that we're giving to these kids, because these kids don't have a lot.
Take us through just the logistics of the event. How's this all going to work with the auction and then the competition and all that stuff?
Yeah, so Thursday night is the auction night where you'll be there, Ryan.
I'm going to show up in a suit, and the checks are just going to be written. That's what's going to happen, you know?
People have worn less and thrown just as much money at these events.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
So we'll auction off actually 26 of the 28 pros. We actually will do a raffle for the two pros this year. And then on Friday, we have a little experience with our celebrity pros in the morning, where we're actually going to auction off a private lesson with each of our 4 top pros: Robert Kendrick, Luke Jensen, Brenda Schultz-McCarthy, and Jesse Witten. And then on Friday night, we do an adult clinic from 5:15 to 6:15, and then we do an exhibition doubles with 3 of them. Luke doesn't play anymore; he MCs the event, and then we'll have one of our former college players playing, and also one of the staff out at the club. Jan Steenekamp is going to play with the pros, so it's going to be a fun night.
The other thing too is, you walk around, you see people playing tennis. Maybe you got your kid playing on the JV team and over. Yeah, it's great. When you get up close to people who are actual tennis players who have been or are pros, it's a different world, man. I mean, it is absolutely a pleasure to sit and also just stunning, like amazing to watch that. So that's an awesome deal on Friday. And then on Saturday and Sunday,
is the program
you got the
itself.
tournament where you're playing with these guys, which, do I want to walk out there? Yes, I do. You cover 98% of this square. I'm going to stand on my spot and defend myself from the ball as it comes ripping over the net at me. Yeah. But how fun is that to be able to actually get on the court and play? And breakfast Saturday and Sunday, lunch, a VIP party on Saturday night, a tour of the shelter. Everything is going to be an unbelievable weekend. So this is not, this isn't just a day, go home with your gift basket or whatever. I mean, this is a real experience that you're going to be able to tell this is Christmas card material right here.
It is, and it's not just for the people who are successful bidding on the pros.
Right.
The Friday clinic is a $10 donation for the adults, and then free to come and watch the matches. No entrance fee or anything like that. And then you can come and watch the matches on Saturday and Sunday, and including the auction night is. We include dinner. There's no cost to come. We just want you to come and have a great time. There's a cash bar, but it's just a chance to come and be and mix with the similar people and have a great night.
Well, it's something that I feel so very strongly about as a parent of young kids, and having seen a little bit of what Watson is up to and in various situations. It's such an important thing. It's such a big deal, and so much fun too. That you should just come out and do it. Again, Thursday is when this whole thing kicks off, October the 10th. It's from 6 to 9:30 out at the barn on Mullen. Go online to watsonchildrensshelter.org. watsonchildrensshelter.org for info and tickets. Starting in just about 4 days, you can already on the phone start bidding on the silent auction stuff. You can go through and see all that. What are some of the items that are going to be available there?
We have had some incredible, generous supporters. We've got the Ranch at Rock Creek has donated like a multi-course meal. We've got people donating their condos for the weekend. We've got date night packages, rounds of golf. So it goes through the roof. There are so many cool things. And I think the auction is so great because there are so many people that aren't tennis players, like myself,
right?
And that they want to support the shelter in a fun way, and they can do it from their phone. They don't even have to come. It's a mobile silent auction, and it starts on Friday. So
when the time comes, October 4th, for the kids, number 4, the kids is what you text to the number 71760, 71760. So you can save that now, and then you'll be able to view and bid on all those auction items at that time. But this is going to be a blast. I can't wait to be there a week from Thursday. We're going to have a great time with the pros, with the auction, with the whole night, and also for a great cause. And also one thing I really like about it is actually, like the tour of the home, of the shelter itself, and giving people a first person view of exactly what it is that they are helping to support. There's plenty of great organizations doing really good work, but this one is particularly strong for me, and so I encourage everybody to get out there and participate this in one way or another, even if you are not a tennis player, even if you are a 38-year-old half-handicapped radio host, you could do something and be a part of this, okay? So we appreciate it. Scott and Hayden, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else that we got to cover that we didn't cover here?
No, I think you got everything, and we kind of joked about how the pros are professional tennis players, but I don't want that to deter anybody from coming to the auction because it's all friendly competition. It's fun. So even if you just like tennis and you want to have this cool experience with them, they make it fun. They're not going to smash you on the courts. Everybody's welcome.
Beautiful. Well, guys, thanks so much for being here. We're really looking forward to it next week, okay? We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Some high school football around the state we got to cover. What happened in the Battle of the Bronx? We'll tell you right after this.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. We've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
It's a rite of passage, that first bank account. Explore the great options for your young adult with a visit to Farmer State Bank, online at farmersebank.com or in person at any of our 9 locations in Western Montana. Our checking and savings accounts are designed to fit any lifestyle and budget, with the flexibility, innovations, and security today's consumers demand. Start out right with Farmer State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. Member FDIC.
Hi, this is Michael Legg, Artistic Director at Montana Repertory Theater. If you loved our season opener, Go Please Go, or even if you missed it but still want to see the rest of the season, you're in luck. Season ticket packages are still on sale for just $70. That's $70 for 3 more innovative and exciting shows, including our production of War of the Worlds in January. Go to montanarep.com to get your tickets today.
Get ready to sing, dance, and laugh until your cheeks hurt with the interactive, unforgettable Dueling Pianos show, October 19th at the UC Ballroom. Dueling Pianos is a gala benefiting Montana children, and you can help by purchasing tickets at montanahope.org. Guests will enjoy a lively evening of dueling pianos, hors d'oeuvres, silent auctions, and raffles. All proceeds will benefit the Montana Hope Project and Catholic Social Services of Montana. Kids 10 and under are free. Learn more and purchase tickets at montanahope.org.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
Tootell and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Boys and girls, it's homecoming week in Missoula. And we got tickets for you. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to have you tell your best homecoming story. And coming up in about 30 minutes, we're going to open up the phone lines for you to call. And every caller is going to be entered. Okay? And then on Thursday, we will select a winner, we'll pull a name out, and they're going to tell their best homecoming story. And they will get tickets to the Grizzly-Idaho State game. Also, you'll be entered if you follow us on Instagram. It's just that simple. Easy. 1029 ESPN, the handle on Instagram. Follow us there, and you will be automatically entered as well to win tickets to the Grizzly-Idaho State game. So go ahead and be a part of that. Want to remind everybody, coming up 5:30, about 45 minutes from now, we will have Matt Pauley on with us. He is from 620 AM radio, WTMJ in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The mighty Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He does the pre- and post game there for the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers facing the Washington Nationals tonight in the NL wildcard game. We'll have the entire postseason for you as much as we can. Some games are overlapped and that kind of thing. But on ESPN radio, we will have tonight's NL wildcard, tomorrow's AL wildcard, and then we'll get into the divisional series. Love this time of year, despite the fact that your Cleveland Indians, they're not the Indians are not in it. Is that correct? They're out, right?
I think that's correct.
Fan. I can tell you definitively my Cubs are not in it, which makes me very upset. But the Brewers are in it, and they are playing the Nats for the right to go, play the L.A. Dodgers in the divisional series. So Matt Pauley going to join us, talk to us about Brewers baseball. So looking forward to that. It is time now for our Prep Extra segment. It's brought to us by Farmers State Bank. Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. And Coulter, we had this game circled from the very beginning of the year, and it only got better despite Hamilton's loss to Dillon 2 weeks ago. In a 1-point game. Frenchtown has been so good this season, and this is the game of the week and one of the games of the season at the Class A level between Hamilton and Frenchtown. Carson Rostad found another Rostad a couple of times in the end zone, and the Hamilton Broncs defeated the Frenchtown Broncs in this one.
Rostad, it's going to have a hard time holding him down. We said that it was an upset when Hamilton lost at Dillon. Losing in Dillon in the last 20 years is really just status quo.
It's almost just remarkable to say how good Hamilton is to make that a statement that it was an upset that they would lose at Dillon.
Right. I mean, Dillon is pretty much just unbeatable at home. This is kind of how it is. I mean, if you've ever been to Dillon on a Friday night, I mean, how many people live in Dillon? 8,000? How many people are at the football game? Like 7,500? I mean, for real. The whole town is there. It's one of the great small town atmospheres you'll find anywhere. I mean, the high school team probably outdraws Montana Western.
I was actually going to say this. Montana Western had a playoff game. Or excuse me, Montana Western had a football game, and Dillon had a playoff game. And playoff games at the high school level are often played in the afternoons on Saturday rather than on the Friday nights. And they moved Montana Western out to the night game because Dillon's playing postseason football at the high school level there. But as it is, Hamilton 34, Frenchtown 25, and Tyson Ross had 2 touchdown catches for him. No,
Tyson. Oh, excuse me. He has a
reception.
Little brother.
Yes.
Okay.
And Carson Ross had 1 passing touchdown. The other touchdown pass actually must have been a trick play or something like that because it did not come from Carson. So it was a win, though, for Hamilton. And, I mean, with the playoffs coming and all that, Hamilton is going to, of course, be in it. But you don't want to lose 2 games in a row, even to 2 very good teams. And so they wwere able to do it. And Frenchtown, a great performance by Frenchtown. Jace Klutzerwitz, a 33-yard rushing touchdown in this game. He had 8 carries for 52 yards and a score. But Frenchtown not quite up to it on Friday night. But this was a really good game, competitive game, and perhaps a preview of a rematch that, if the stars align down the road.
That's an interesting point, too, there, is that obviously you never want to lose. But Hamilton has had so much pressure going into the state championship game the last 2 years because they've been undefeated.
Goose egg.
And then they've lost.
Yes.
That's tough.
Yes.
You don't know how to lose if you don't lose. And I don't think it's not good to lose, but
I know how to lose, but I never lost anything.
It's like we were talking about Sean Rady off the top. I mean, in a certain element, all the just absolutely jaw-dropping losses Montana suffered at home last year in college football, it's what's spurring them on right now. I mean, they, like he said, Dalton Steed went to everybody and said, hey, UC Davis 49, Montana 21. Don't forget it. And now they can go around saying 45-20. We got them back. We answered the bell. It's the same deal here. I mean, there's a chance that Hamilton might get Dillon again. They might get a rematch, or they might get Frenchtown. But regardless, it could be the thing that spurs them on. Maybe when you're coming into the year, you've been to back-to-back state championship games. You've only lost those 2 games in the last 2 years. You got the reigning Gatorade Player of the Year, who's already committed to the Grizz. Sometimes maybe you can start reading your own headlines. And I'm not saying that's what they were doing, but I'm just saying a loss early in the year like that can help you readjust. And they obviously did, because they went out and beat the number 2 team in the state. So it was a great win by Hamilton.
It is Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Quickly, Coulter, as we wrap up hour number 1, let's just run through a couple of the AA scores. Bozeman 21-0 over Great Falls, and Hellgate losing their first game, or the first loss of the season, 42-20 to Helena High, and the Knights fall to 3-1.
And that was the Hellgate's first game against a real contender. I think we've sort of stratified AA now. I think that you have certainly Billings, West, and Butte are the 2 5-0 teams here at the midpoint of the season. Both really impressive to this point so far. Sentinel, their one loss to Butte, so they've been just as good. And they have,
and that was, I mean, on a last-second
field
goal.
On a last-second field, but they also have a win over Helena Capital. I mean, Sentinel's been great. Bozeman bounced back from their loss to Big Sky, and they're 4-1. And then Helena High with that win, they have now bounced back from their loss, and now they're 4-1 as well. So those 5 teams are then plus Capital and Hellgate. Those 7 are your AA contenders, I think. And Billings Senior, maybe. But I think that Great Falls Great Falls CMR and Great Falls High both a little bit down. Billings Skyview certainly down. Kalispell Flathead certainly down. Missoula Big Sky, we'll see, because Missoula Big Sky has not been lights out, but they've been competitive, and they have that win over Bozeman. So it shows you that they can compete with that top tier.
Here's the good news this past weekend for the Big Sky Screaming Eagles. They scored 14 points right off the get on 2 defensive touchdowns. They scored 35 points in a game against Kalispell Glacier. The bad news, they gave up 63, including 6 straight touchdowns to Glacier after being up 21-7. So they scored, but could not stop Kalispell Glacier and lose 63-35. But you're right. I mean, Missoula Big Sky has the win over Bozeman and has had some very close losses. This is an aberration. I mean, you don't expect Big Sky to be giving up 63. I mean, 9 touchdowns is a significant number in a football game. So
I know. I mean,
that may be an aberration.
Gary Eckergen, one of the great mentors in my life, and a guy that I just loved. When I saw the score on Twitter, I just thought, God rest Gary Eckergen's soul, because if he was alive to watch somebody score 63 against the Big Sky Eagles, he might just cut the whole team. Yeah. I mean, and I'm not trying to dog on the Big Sky kids because football's changed, but the day that either team scores 63 points, X team or the other team, is a day that hell freezes over, and Gary Eckergen's one. I mean, I remember when we beat Sentinel 45-14, I think, my senior year, and that was the most points Big Sky had scored in ever. I mean, in his whole career, and he was like, he didn't even know what to do. He's like, I didn't know that we could just run the ball every play and still score 45. This is an impressive effort. But it's crazy to see how much football has changed, but we'll see if Big Sky can bounce back, but that sounded like a wild one as well.
Last one here, Missoula Loyola, 21-11 win over Big Fork. Bryce Daniels, 3 passing touchdowns. Keenan Russell, 2 rushing and 3 receiving TDs. The Loyola Rams 2-2 coming into this game, and even though they've played and lost to really probably the 2 best teams in the state in Manhattan and Fairfield, you want to continue to put the bricks in the wall with some W's. Big Fork traditionally a very good football team.
They were very good last year,
and so a good win for Missoula Loyola, 21-11. That is our Prep Extra segment. It's brought to us by the Farmers State Bank. Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. Hour number 1 in the books. If you want to listen to anything that took place in the first hour, our buddy Sean Rainey, the good folks from the Watson Children's Shelter and Peak Tennis Club, you go online and check out the podcast. Podcast available everywhere you get your podcast, and is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Just search the Tootell and Nuanez podcast. You get it there. Also, the FCS Speculators, a betting podcast. Episode 2 going to be out tomorrow. Going to get into some stuff there, so you can check all that out. So go take a look at it and enjoy it. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get into some more football. Got some sound for you from Bobby Houck. We will look forward to the week that is forthcoming now with the Grizzlies. Coulter, it's warming up a little bit. There was some snow. That snow is now water. That water, it's in your gutters, but it's going nowhere because your gutters are clogged up. So get them unclogged. But don't do it yourself. It's It's time-consuming, it's aggravating, and worst case scenario, flat out dangerous. You get up on a ladder, you try and reach out there too far, kaplow, kaplooey, and off you go to the ER. Okay? You don't want that. Go to MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. Okay? They will give you your time back. You can go watch a game. You can watch the baseball tonight, tomorrow, all weekend. You can watch football. Okay? You can do whatever you want. You can take your significant other on a date. You can hang out with your kids. Maybe you just nap it out. You know what I mean? They're out there fighting the fight. You're on your couch sawing logs. Whatever you want to do, but Missoula Gutter Cleaning, let them clean your gutters, okay? And you go online, MissoulaGutterCleaning.com, get an estimate from them, and then when the job is finished, they'll give you a $20 gift card. How about that? To your favorite brewery or coffee shop whenever the job is done. So MissoulaGutterCleaning.com, let them take care of the hard work and the dangerous work of cleaning your gutters for you.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at SelwayArmory.com. Hey everybody, here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything out of pocket.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything for an initial consultation, so you have absolutely nothing to risk by calling us.
If you're injured in a car accident, call the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at MontanaAdvocates.com.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up,
Buy one, get one free at your local Town Pump. Your Bay sparkling water, buy one, get one free. Plus, high brew 11-ounce coffee, buy one, get one free. Grab a friend and head to Town Pump. There's one right down the road.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
An opening reception for Festival of Remembrance is this Friday, 5 to 8 at the Artist Shop, 127 North Higgins, downtown Missoula. Honor, Remember is a group exhibition of mixed media by artists Bobby Tilton, Renee Taff, David Miles Lusk, Marlise Borchers, Patricia Thornton, Kathy Paoli, Gretel Stout, Katrina Rumland, Tim Thornton, and Bev Gluckart. Individuals are invited to contribute a small sentiment to the community shrine in honor of loved ones who have passed. Find a Festival of Remembrance on Facebook for more details on this month-long series of events.
Hi, this is Michael Legg, Artistic Director at Montana Repertory Theater. If you loved our season opener, Go Please Go, or even if you missed it but still want to see the rest of the season, you're in luck. Season ticket packages are still on sale for just $70. That's $70 for 3 more innovative and exciting shows, including our production of War of the Worlds in January. Go to montanarep.com to get your tickets today.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. For the third straight game, former Bozeman High School tight end Will Disley caught a touchdown pass from Russell Wilson for the Seattle Seahawks in their 27-10 win over the Arizona Cardinals Sunday. The former Washington defensive lineman who started playing offense for the first time since high school just 3 years ago hauled in a career-high 7 passes for 57 yards as the Hawks moved to 3-1 this season. Disley's now got 4 touchdowns this year and 6 touchdowns in 8 career games. That's a nice percentage. Bounding back from a devastating torn patella tendon that ended his rookie season quickly last fall. The Seahawks play the Rams Thursday night. Can be heard right here on ESPN Radio.
Former Montana State standout Keldron Blevins signed a training camp contract with the Portland Trailblazers on Monday. The contract gives him an opportunity to make the active roster with training camp opening today. The 6'4" forward is the cousin of Blazers superstar Damian Lillard.
A weekend snowstorm in north central Montana and expected low temperatures this week caused the MHSA to reschedule the State Class AA golf tournament. The tournament, which will still be held at Meadowlark Country Club in Great Falls, was originally slated to be held last week, and now it will begin on October 8th. Tonight, the NL Wild Card. Milwaukee is at Washington for the right to play the LA Dodgers in the divisional series. First pitch, 6:08, right here on ESPN Radio.
This ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law.
Every morning there's a heartache hanging from the corner of my girlfriend's four-post bed. I know it's not mine, and I know
Hour number 2
she loves me, but
starts with a little coffee. How about that?
How are you getting delivery service? This is amazing.
It's ice cold.
How come you're the only one that gets it?
It was the bottom of the thing.
Story of your life, bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, that's where I get my
Clothes
and
I
coffee.
found in the road.
Hey, boys and girls, how are you? Tootell and Nuanez, good to be with you on a Tuesday afternoon. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web, 1029ESPN.com, and you can listen live there on the stream. The stream available all the time thanks to Opportunity Bank. Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. Coulter, we had Sean Rainey in here talking about the Grizzlies and their dominant performance on Saturday. But as Bobby Houck and every player on his team will tell you and every coach on his staff will tell you, we're happy to be 1-0. And now it's on to Idaho State. And the Idaho State Bengals come to Missoula after a hugely impressive win over Portland State. And a lot of people may push back and go, well, it's Portland State. Of course, they're going to go score 54 points. Not so fast. I think this Portland State team has performed better than
Idaho State.
No. Portland State. I think the Portland State team has been better, and Idaho State put it on them.
Right.
Idaho State pounded Portland State, and I thought that was impressive. It wasn't just, let's put it like this. I thought Idaho State and Portland State were very much like opponents. And Idaho State said, no. We are not like opponents. Idaho State is the dominant team of these two, and they housed the Vikings on Saturday. And this is a very, very good offense coming in to play the Grizz in their homecoming. And when you look at the Montana's home schedule, I mean, it's a heck of a schedule. They got Idaho, which, okay, but it's a rivalry. You got Weber State at home. You got Idaho, and then who's the fourth game? I got to look up. That's the home game for the Grizzlies. But there's some really good games. And you look at Idaho State. Well, this is sort of the other of the conference games. Well, I don't think so. Not with the way Rob Fennessy's got it going down there in Pocatello, and with the clout, the outstanding talent that this team has offensively. This is going to be a really fun game. This could be a very high-scoring game on Saturday.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you can't underestimate anybody in the Big Sky. That's the cliche, but it's also just the truth. And if you underestimate, Idaho State has 4 of their 5 starters back on their offensive line. They are replacing their quarterback, but Matt Struck can spin it, no doubt.
6 touchdowns on 16 receptions, or 14 receptions.
14 completions last week, yep. And
unbelievable.
Here's the thing is, there's so many different systems, but when you have a system like theirs where it's so specific, you're going to run so much run-pass option and then throw the ball down the field, chuck it. It's pretty easy to recruit that spot because all you got to say if you're recruiting a junior college guy, maybe you can get a guy that's a little bit out of your league because you just say, hey, dude, you want to come throw 30 touchdowns? Does that sound fun?
Maybe you go get a professional baseball player.
Right. Like, do you want to come throw to this 27-year-old guy who runs straight 4.4 and has a 40-inch vertical? He's maybe the best athlete in the entire Big Sky Conference.
Yeah.
Pretty good selling point. But then you add in the fact that they're pretty good up front on the offensive line. And then you add in the fact here's the thing. The reason Idaho State's been able to be prolific on offense the last couple of years is not necessarily because of Tanner and Mitch Guller and Mikey Dean as much as it's been their ability to run the ball, which then helps those guys get open. Like you watched that Idaho film last year when they dropped 62 on the Vandals. They just thrashed them. And it's because Idaho, first of all, was playing man coverage, but then every time Idaho State ran the ball, they gashed them. And so then Idaho would start creeping, and then boom, play action, touchdown, play action, 30-yard gain. And it's just one thing leads to the next. If you underestimate Idaho State, Mike Farrer will mess around and score 45 on you for sure.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an interesting element for Coach Farrer, who's the offensive coordinator there, and for Rob Fennessy, who's the head coach at Idaho State, because these guys have not faced Bobby Hauck. Mike has coached at Idaho State and faced Montana when he was there the first time around. Before then, he joined Bob Stitt's staff, but he hasn't coached against Montana since leaving Montana when Bob Stitt was not renewed, and he's never gone against his mentor. And it's definitely an interesting deal. You know, if you follow Mike Farrer's story, you can go check out SkylineSportsMT.com. Andrew Houghton wrote a great profile on Mike last year. Coach, I know Mike really well. He's a good friend of mine. But Mike is one of the smartest guys I ever met. He was good. He was getting his undergraduate in microbiology and neuroscience or something crazy, and he was going to go to med school. And then he had a terrible cancer scare. He got cancer when we were like 23, 24 years old, very young. And it shocked him and kind of made his life pivot. And he was like, you know what? Medical school sounds all fine and dandy, and I know I'd probably be a good doctor, but I want to be in football. I love football. And so he went and got a graduate.
Isn't it interesting because a lot of people go, I got to go to med school.
Right.
Like but he goes, no.
I mean,
life is short.
Might as well have fun.
I am going to do the thing that I care about. It's not even about having fun, right? It's about doing the thing that you identify as that thing that does it for you.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. And so Mike went and got on Bobby Hauck's staff at UNLV as a graduate assistant, and that was when Coach Fennessy was there. And, you know, Coach Fenn was the OC when Mike was playing here, and he also was coaching receivers at the time. And so there's a lot of crossover in this game. But it would be such an interesting deal because sometimes that dynamic, when you first play your mentor, like when you first fight your dad, you can't handle it. You can't handle because you just know that he lords over you. But sometimes you can't wait to whip your older brother. Like, you can't wait. Right. I'm finally big and strong enough. Let's go. So we'll see what that dynamic is like. We're going to have to wait till Saturday because nobody's going to actually talk about it.
Has Brooks ever whipped you?
Oh, yeah, the last time we fought. That's why it's the last time we fought.
Very good.
I mean, come on. Yeah, I was about 100-0, and then after one loss, nope, that's good. I'm good. Never happening again. Not happening.
By the way, Eastern Washington, thank you, David, the other team that Montana's playing at home. That's a heck of a home slate for the Grizzlies, by the way, in the conference. When you talk about Idaho State this week, who, you know, people, if you're paying attention, this is a good football team. And then just the names, Idaho, Eastern Washington, Weber State. That's the home conference schedule for the Grizzlies. Those are some matchups right there. Let's hear from Bobby Hauck. This is yesterday from the press conference. The Monday press conference, even though it's Monday and it's close to Saturday, is always forward-looking to the next Saturday. Here's his comments, opening remarks, primarily about Idaho State.
Yeah, we're happy to be 1-0 in the Big Sky right now, and certainly fired up for homecoming week here in Missoula with Idaho State coming to town. So they present a big challenge. They've got their quarterback back. They've played really well with him in the game. They absolutely killed Portland State last week. I think they're up 41-7 at half, and obviously one going away. I think they're extremely well coached. They've done an amazing job there. I mean, it's historically been a place where it's been a little up and down, and these guys have done a really nice job coaching there. They play hard. They're sound. Their scheme's excellent. They're a handful to prepare for. I know they feel real strongly about their skill players, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, which I agree with. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball, they're only giving up 20 points a game or thereabouts. So this is a dangerous opponent, and they've got our attention early on in the week this week. So the programs know each other really well. The staffs know each other really well. Numerous of their guys are guys who've worked here and or alums of our place. So with that crossover, we're going to have to change some things, offense, defense, special teams, and try to keep them from knowing ahead of time what we're doing on any given play.
And related to that, I had to ask Coach more specifically about going up against Rob Fennessy, who was his offensive coordinator at Montana and then again at UNLV, and this will be the first time they go head-to-head. Here's what he had to say about matching up against his protege.
Well, I kind of touched on it a little bit. I think they're really well coached. Those guys do a good job, and Rob, as well as their assistant coaches, their strength coach is a guy that's been with us. They're a fit-looking, good-looking group. I mean, Dan Ryan does a great job in their weight room. That they know how we do business. We probably don't have quite as good an idea how they do it because we haven't been immersed in it. But as I mentioned, we'll have to change a few things to counteract that.
So there you go. Bobby talking a little bit about the guys, but more about just trying to deal with the fact that, Rob Fennessy maybe doesn't know them all, but he knows a lot of the secrets, right? And by secrets, I'm talking about schemes. I mean, he knows what Bobby Hauck wants to do intimately and was certainly a part of building some of that. Now, even with the space and the time at San Diego State and so forth, they're going to have to figure out a little cloak and dagger act here on Saturday.
I think that's one of the most interesting talking points for us is just how that factor actually almost is irrelevant in this game because the schemes, first of all, football is so much different just in the 10 years since Rob Fennessy and Bobby Hauck last coached together at Montana in 2009. It's so different. The proliferation of technology, everybody talks about what do you run? Everybody runs everything now. Like you can have sort of identities or tendencies, but everybody runs everything.
Your identities is just who are your best players and what do they do
well, but like everybody runs a little bit of an RPO. Everybody runs a run-pass option. Somewhere along the line, you're going to run a run-pass option play. Cal Poly, who runs a triple option, is going to run an RPO once or twice on Saturday. Right. They're just going to do it. All sorts of teams are going to run, variations of wide receiver screens and bubble screens and inside zone, counter, out of the gun, the zone read, all that stuff. But the other thing is that, and Rob Fennessy always jokes about this too. He said, because Rob Fennessy, his background was as a spread guy. He came to Montana after being the offensive coordinator at Cal State Northridge when they were throwing the ball all over the place. And then they dropped football, and they weren't in the Big Sky anymore. And then Fennessy was at Wyoming for a couple years. And then he comes to Montana, and he was going to throw the ball all over the yard. And that's what Montana had been known for. And then in 2003, Bobby Hauck's first year, they had brought in Craig Oaks as a transfer quarterback from Colorado. Craig Oaks hurt his ankle. And so then there was kind of a mishmash of who's going to play quarterback. So they kind of had to ham and egg it, and they even went as far as to run the straight-up veer option with Kyle Sampson as the quarterback to beat Idaho in a legendary Bobby Hauck win where they basically scrapped the whole offense and went with Kyle Sampson, this 5'9" slot receiver who used to play quarterback at Helena Capital, and they win an FBS game. But then the next year, I think people forget that Montana had some really good backs, including Justin Green, but that team threw the ball a ton. Craig Oaks threw 33, 34 touchdowns, and they went all the way to the national championship game. But then the offense evolved because of the personnel more than anything. Montana had multiple NFL-caliber offensive linemen, and they had multiple NFL-caliber running backs. So even if Rob Fennessy wanted to throw the ball all over the place, Bobby Hauck was like, well, we should give it to Lex Hilliard and Chase Reynolds. Probably a good strategy. But Fennessy, now, though, within the implementation of a lot of the stuff that Mike Farrader's brought to the table, the offense looks wildly different than anything that Montana ran the first time around here, and it looks a lot different than what Bobby Hauck and Rob Fennessy ran at UNLV. And people also got to remember that Rob Fennessy got demoted and promoted multiple times at UNLV. He went from the OC to the receivers coach, back to the OC. So they were sort of in flux that whole time as they were trying to find their identity there in Vegas as well. And they look at Montana. I mean, what Montana's running right now is nothing like what Rob Fennessy or Craig Paulson were running defensively when Bobby Hauck was here the first time. Kent Baer's scheme is just blitz heavy, and it's all sorts of exotic, and you have multiple. You have 5 defensive backs, including 3 safeties. Right. I mean,
the base is not even
the base is not even the same. I mean, Montana was straight up 4-3 traditional wide defensive ends, traditional inside true Mike linebacker, traditional Will linebacker, traditional Sam linebacker. Craig Paulson's scheme is one of the most simplistic schemes ever. It works so well because everybody sprinted the ball every single time, and there was no excuse to do anything but that. And then you look at what Montana's running on offense right now. I mean, it is a world away from what they were running back then. And I think that's a huge testament then to the coaching staff this year, too, at Montana. But Frank Ogler from the Missoulian asked Bobby, hey, do you see any similarities in the scheme? And he said, no, we've all evolved as coaches to the point where there is nothing from the past that influences how we prepare for this game today. Right. Or this week.
Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. You mentioned it earlier, but Matt Struck is the quarterback for Idaho State. He steps in. He's a junior college transfer and a really good quarterback. 14 of 23 for 332 yards and 6 touchdowns against Portland State. And even if the Portland State defense isn't the Montana defense, and it's not, that's a heck of a performance. And Bobby Houck was asked about that. You want
it?
Okay. All right, here we go. Bobby Houck talking about Matt Struck, Idaho State's quarterback.
Well, he's good at a lot of things. You look at their production when he went out in the Utah game and then didn't play against Northern Iowa. It was a completely different offensive team in terms of their production. With him being back in the mix and healthy, they're a whole different beast. They really believe their offensive skill players to be the best in the league. Maybe they're right. They're awfully good. So he throws it up to them, he's accurate, and they go make plays. And if you look at you guys will get a chance to catch some of the Portland State highlights, but if you look at the way they were up on them big, like once they got it rolling, it was unreal. And then you can go back to, and this is more about the wide receivers, but you can go back to their game against Idaho last year or the first 3 quarters of their game at Davis last year. I mean, they just lit people up. It's eye-opening.
There you go, Bobby Houck. Yeah, get the name right sometimes. Talking about Matt Struck, the Idaho State quarterback.
Sometimes there's schemes that have a lot of fluidity in it, which Montana's defensive scheme does have a lot of fluidity in it. Portland State's scheme, the flex, it has a lot of detail around it, but there's not a lot of fluidity in it. The 2 guys on the outside on Portland State's defense play man. They straight up play man. You guard that guy in front of you. That is it. Against Idaho State's offense, if they start running the ball, good luck. And it's exactly what happened to Idaho last year. I hate to keep hearkening back to that game, but Idaho would not get out of man. They had nothing to adjust to. Idaho State said, great. Tanner Giller threw 8 touchdown passes in that game, almost every single one of them on the same play.
Yeah.
Because if Mitch Giller gets a step on you, he's gone. And if
he is going to get a step on you.
He is going to get a step. I mean, that's the thing. I think that's one thing that Grizz fans, if you want to know who to watch for the other team, there's a lot of guys who get a lot of headlines, and Pocatello is kind of an outpost. They do get good local coverage, but they, for whatever reason, doesn't matriculate out through the rest of the league. They don't really have those conference-wide stars oftentimes. Mitch Giller is the best receiver in the Big Sky Conference. I really think that. I think that the only reason I'm saying he's better than the Montana guys is because he's a senior who also played multiple years of professional sports before he came to play college sports. He's an unreal athlete. Yeah. Unreal. And you just throw it up to him. He's averaging 22 yards per catch for his career. Think of that.
That's impressive. That is impressive. Well, it'll be a fun game on Saturday, no doubt. And we want to send you. So here's what we want you to do. Starting right now, you can call 329-1899. 329-1899. Just give us your name, phone number, give us your information, and then we will select a name on Thursday, and you will give us your best homecoming story. Okay? It's unrestricted. Doesn't have to be about the Grizzlies. Doesn't have to be about the Bobcats. Doesn't have to be about college. It could be high school homecoming, whatever it is. Maybe not even your homecoming. Just your best homecoming story. 329-1899. Put your name in now. And David will take your names back there. He'll take down the information and give that to you. The other way you can enter for tickets, just go on and follow us on the old Instagram. 1029 ESPN, the handle on Instagram. 1029 ESPN. You go check that thing out and enjoy it there as well. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. I'm excited about this. It is, Coulter, the 1st of October. And what a beautiful day. After that weekend, kind of a bummer. What a beautiful day October 1st has turned out to be, and we are very happy to have Matt Pauley, who does the pre- and post-game show for the Milwaukee Brewers, on with us to talk about day one, game one of the MLB postseason. The Brewers at the Nationals in the NL wildcard game. We'll have that for you on ESPN Radio coming up at the top of the hour. Going to send you to the nation's capital. So Matt Pauley going to talk to us about the Brewers right after this. They look up. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's satellite internet? That's right. High-speed internet delivered from a satellite right to where you live. When you're beyond the reach of cable and fiber internet, look up. Eagle Satellite is our community's authorized HughesNet retailer. With HughesNet, you'll have fast speeds, unlimited data with no hard data limits, and built-in Wi-Fi that you need. Eagle Satellite has proudly helped our community get online for 39 years, and this year they want to help you get connected too. For a limited time, you can get free standard installation when you order HughesNet. Call Eagle Satellite at 406-728-9999, that's 728-9999, and see for yourself why HughesNet is America's #1 choice for satellite internet. That's Eagle Satellite, 728-9999, Eagle Satellite and HughesNet, proudly connecting our community.
Jayco and Rangish Brothers end-of-the-year clearance event is going on now. Our entire lot is on sale, so if you've been waiting for a smoking hot deal on fifth wheels, campers, toy haulers, and motorhomes, there is no better time to buy than now. Save big on a Jayco J-Flight Bunkhouse SLX with payments as low as $99 per month OAC. Or get huge savings on a 2019 Jayco Eagle fifth wheel, starting at only $28,750. Don't miss our final sales event of the year. Only where a handshake means something. Rangish Brothers RV Center.
Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
At the Montana Club, our goal is to create a menu of mouth-watering food with variety to satisfy any craving. From the garden-fresh ingredients in our salads to our succulent, perfectly grilled Montana Club Angus steaks, we take pride in every detail that goes into preparing your food. Top off your meal with a premium cocktail, wine, or microbrew. Come as you are and satisfy your craving with our home-style breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
Get ready to sing, dance, and laugh until your cheeks hurt with the interactive, unforgettable Dueling Pianos show, October 19th at the UC Ballroom. Dueling Pianos is a gala benefiting Montana children, and you can help by purchasing tickets at montanahope.org. Guests will enjoy a lively evening of dueling pianos, hors d'oeuvres, silent auctions, and raffles. All proceeds will benefit the Montana Hope Project and Catholic Social Services of Montana. Kids 10 and under are free. Learn more and purchase tickets at montanahope.org.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tootell, Colter Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. For the third straight game, Will Dissly has caught a touchdown for the Seattle Seahawks from Russell Wilson. Dissly, a former Bozeman High School star, helped the Seahawks to a 27-10 win over the Arizona Cardinals Sunday. The former Washington defensive lineman who started playing career offense for the first time in his career just 3 years ago had a career-high 7 pass receptions for 57 yards, and that score helped move the Hawks to 3-1 this season. Dissly has now caught 4 touchdowns on the year and 6 touchdowns in 8 career games, bounding back from a devastating torn patella tendon from a year ago. The Seahawks play the Rams Thursday. All action for the Seattle Seahawks right here on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Former Montana State standout Kelvin Blevins signed a training camp contract with the Portland Trailblazers on Monday. The contract gives him the opportunity to make the roster with training camp opening today. 6'4" forward is the cousin of Blazers superstar Damian Lillard.
A weekend snowstorm in north central Montana and expected low temperatures this week caused the MHSA to reschedule the state class AA golf tournament. The tournament, which will still be held at the Meadowlark Country Club in Great Falls, was originally slated to start this week. The event will now begin October 8th. And coming up at the top of the hour, the first game of the MLB postseason, the Milwaukee Brewers at the Washington Nationals in the NL Wild Card game. 6:08, first pitch, right here on ESPN Radio. Just like that. And right here with Tootell and Nuanez, we are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. Coulter, first day of October is also the first day of the MLB postseason. MLB baseball, Milwaukee at the Nationals tonight in game one of the one and only game, the NL Wild Card, and also the AL Wild Card tomorrow night right here on ESPN Radio. Looking forward to this. I know that your team, my team, but I love postseason baseball, man. There's something about it where I turn a corner with baseball, and everything becomes so intriguing. The long sort of lack of action boringness that gets hung on baseball just goes out the window for me in the postseason, because every single strategic part of it comes into play, and it is constant throughout. I find it great, not to mention the crowd that's going to be there in Washington, D.C. tonight. Phenomenal. I mean, when you get 40,000 baseball fans going for it in a baseball stadium, the stress that is involved in it just is drenched in it, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, man, I don't want to have my annual
don't be angry.
Personal therapy session about baseball. My falling out of love with baseball encompasses all the things that I hate about myself, and my regression to the things that plague modern society. But we're not going to go there, because I do love postseason baseball as well, and I think that these one-game playoffs are thrilling. I know that they're not they're not what baseball purists want. I mean, a 3-game series is what baseball is all about. Even at the high school level, the juniors level, you're still going to play either in a tournament style or whatever. But this is an interesting matchup tonight, no doubt. And I think that the playoff field has all sorts of really compelling storylines in it. Namely, the most fascinating one to me is the Minnesota Twins. I don't know where they came out of nowhere. I mean,
hit the most home runs of any team ever.
I mean, they hit 300+ home runs. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah,
totally amazing. I just want so badly, anyone, just beat the Yankees. Just don't let the Yankees. I mean, this Yankees team makes me sick. I'm serious, man. They're so stacked. How many games did they win? 103? Yeah, 103 games. I mean, just anybody. Go Rays. Go Twins. Go Astros. Go A's. Anybody. But that's for here nor there. The most compelling of the playing games, though, Rays A's will be good. But this tonight with the Brewers trying to get to Max Scherzer and the Nationals, we'll see. It's going to be a fascinating one.
Well, you and I can talk about baseball all day long, but we should just let somebody talk about it who knows a little something about it, and that's what we do now. Well, off we go to the Rangich Brothers RV phone line, and we welcome in the host of the pre- and post-game show on 620 WTMJ in Milwaukee. Pre- and post-game show for the Milwaukee Brewers, who play the Washington Nationals tonight in the NL Wild Card game. Matt Pauley joining us. Matt, thanks so much for being with us. How are you?
Ryan Coulter, I'm doing good. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, we're certainly happy to have you on. We don't get a ton of MLB baseball out this way, shocking as that might be. So we're certainly happy to have somebody who has been in it and on it. Let's start with the obvious. A one-game winner moves on, loser goes home, something that is really outside the norm, of course, in baseball, but makes for certainly an exciting night. Brandon Woodruff going for the Brewers, Max Scherzer for the Nationals. Woodruff, the less-known commodity outside of Milwaukee and Wisconsin. Talk to us about the starter tonight for the Brewers.
Yeah, so Woodruff's really good. He was an all-star this year. He was a late addition to the all-star team. The only issue with Woodruff is he got injured a couple months ago, and he missed about 2 months' worth of time with an oblique injury. And this is just going to be his third start since coming off the injured list. And we really don't know how long he's going to be able to go. When he first came off the injured list, the idea was to get him stretched out before the postseason. He pitched a couple innings in his first start. In his second start, he kind of developed some soreness and some fatigue, so they got him out of there early again, and then he never got that third start during the regular season. So there's a lot of question marks going into this game. Woodruff's been really good. We just don't know how long that arm is going to allow him to stay in the game tonight.
So, I mean, he 11-3, I think, on the season, outstanding on the year. But what was it for Craig Counsell that said, okay, we want to give Woodruff the ball in this one that we got to get?
He's the best pitcher on the staff. I think that's 2 innings, 3 innings, 4 innings of Brandon Woodruff in all likelihood is going to be 2, 3, 4 innings better than anybody else you have. And they've been really aggressive with their bullpen. The Brewers are especially good in the month of September when the rosters expand at going short starts, not allowing starters to see a lineup a third time through, and then just throwing arm after arm after arm at teams. And it resulted in one of the best Septembers in franchise history. So you get the idea is to set the tone early on with Woodruff and then start the parade of relief pitchers after that.
In these one-game playoffs, the guy who's going to go as a starter is such a key factor. And if you were going to – there's a lot of guys you could make the case for as the number one guy you'd want going in a one-game playoff. But Max Scherzer has got to be one of them. And, I mean, the guy's electric. At times he's unhittable. How do you expect Milwaukee to approach trying to get to Scherzer? And is there any level of intimidation with the fact that you have a former Cy Young winner sitting on the other side on the mound?
Yeah, let me start with the second part of that first, and I'll say no, there's not intimidation. When you look at what the Brewers have done in the month of September and some of the pitchers that they beat when they went on their really solid run, they faced off against some really good guys and had some success. But as far as that doesn't mean that Max Scherzer isn't going to have a good night. I mean, he's in all likelihood a future Hall of Famer. He's really good. I would just, more than anything else, I think this is going to be a team that's going to try to wear Scherzer down, go deep into counts, force him to throw a lot of pitches, be very disciplined at the plate. So if Scherzer does make a mistake, they put themselves in the best situation to be able to take advantage of the mistake. The equation for the Brewers to win this game isn't cause Max Scherzer to have a really bad night, because in all likelihood that's not going to happen. The equation is for the Brewers to try to do their best to match Max Scherzer with their group of pitching and then hopefully get a well-placed hit here or there and scratch across a few runs.
Matt Pauley joining us. He does a pre- and post-game show for the Brewers on WTMJ Radio in Milwaukee. We will be sending you out to the NL Wildcard as soon as we are done here this evening for the one-game playoff between the Brewers and the Nationals tonight. And Matt, when you take a look at this lineup for the Brewers, they're really good, obviously anchored by Ryan Braun and Lorenzo Cain. But when Christian Yelich goes down on the outside looking in, you go, oh my God! I mean, it's like it's curtains for the Brewers. And from that point on, I mean, I don't know if they caught a second win or rallied or whatever it was, but they have been so good since that point and really went in a direction maybe opposite what people would have expected. How has that happened for this team?
I think, first off, they galvanized the team a bit, and the team had underachieved offensively. The talk around Milwaukee when the season got started was that this should be a top 2, top 3 offense in the National League, and they didn't get anywhere close to that. After Yelich went down, a lot of the guys on the team who had somewhat underachieved over the course of the season started getting back to being the players that they were expected to be before the season. So everybody lifted their game just a little bit. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, the schedule helped as well. I mean, they had some games against St. Louis and Chicago, but you look at they wrapped up the season with their last 6 series going Miami, then St. Louis, but then San Diego, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Colorado. They should be able to beat most of those teams with the lineup they put together. So really the litmus test for the Brewers is now the postseason. What does this team look like without Christian Yelich against better teams? And we're all going to find that out tonight and potentially starting on Thursday in the divisional series if they can scratch out a win this evening. Josh
Hader, the closer, one of the best closers in all of baseball, I I know the last time these two teams played, he blew a lead in the bottom of the ninth inning. And then down the stretch here, he gave a big home run to Colorado that sort of put the Brewers in the situation. What do you expect his mentality to be coming into this series?
I think he's fine. And, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that game against Washington. That was a game that went 14 innings, and the Brewers actually ended up winning that game. And you're right, he did blow the save, but he was in a really, really bad spot at that point in time. He was giving up home run after home run after home run, and he gave up that run, and it tied it up. And then he found it again. All of a sudden, just out of nowhere, after a few weeks or probably about 2 weeks of him not being able to pitch that well, after he gave up that run, he was really good the rest of that outing, and he was really good the rest of the season until giving up that Saturday night home run against the Rockies. So that's a turning point game for the Brewers, that 14-inning game against the Nationals, because Josh Hader went from kind of leaking some water to being really good. If you look at the home run that he gave up on Saturday night, it was a really good pitch. It was just the guy got the barrel on it and pushed it out at Coors Field. So that happens sometimes. I'm not worried about Josh Hader at all. I think he has been really good since that night in Washington.
Matt, I want to ask you about just the matchup from the regular season. When you talk about the Brewers 4-2 against the Nationals over the course of the year, they swept them in Milwaukee, lost 2 of 3 in Washington. Does any of that matter in a one-and-done scenario like tonight?
Probably not. Certainly that sweep in Milwaukee does not. I mean, this is the Nationals team that was double-digit games under 500. They were when they got swept in Milwaukee. This is not the same Nationals team. They're not that different from the team that they played there in mid-August. So at the very least, I guess you can say the teams are somewhat similar to that time period, but the Brewers don't have Christian Yelich. In a one-game playoff, if they were playing a 5-game series, maybe you could more look at that series in August. I mean, let's be honest about a one-game series. Anybody could win. You could put the Baltimore Orioles into a one-game playoff, and they would have a puncher's chance of winning. These one-game playoffs don't tell you anything about teams. They're great for fans because they're fun and they've got the Game 7 mentality. But anybody who walks out of a one-game playoff and tries to make a wide-ranging statement about a team based off their performance on a single game, I don't buy that, and I think it's a flawed way of looking at things.
Washington Nationals, obviously we talked about Max Scherzer, but Anthony Rendon has had, he's been great for a long time, but really a high watermark for him. How good has this guy been, and what kind of problem does he present to the Milwaukee Brewers tonight?
He's been fantastic. The national narrative when talking about the National League MVP has been Yelich or Bellinger, and I would throw Anthony Rendon in there as well. Right. I think it's a 3-person race. Rendon's been very good. He finishes second, I believe, in the National League as far as batting average. Drives in a ton of runs, a guy that you can put in the middle of the order for the Nationals. And in a year where the Nationals lost Bryce Harper, they've got a guy step up and put up MVP caliber numbers in Rendon. They've got a lot of other nice offensive players, don't get me wrong. But for him to put up that kind of season this year, I think it says something about him beyond from physically as a baseball player. But there's a lot of people questioning this Nationals team going into this year with the exit of Bryce Harper. And there you got a guy like Anthony Rendon who just puts together a career year.
Matt Pauley joining us. He is the host of the Brewers pre- and post-game show on 620 WTMJ in Milwaukee. Last one for you. Do the impossible for us, Matt. Give us a prediction. What's going to happen here? Here just coming up in a few minutes. This game. What's going to happen?
Oh man, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Either team has a shot at this one, but I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. We're going to see the Nationals obviously go with Scherzer. He's not going to pitch a complete game. I think they're going to go to the bullpen using both Corbin and Strasburg and be able to match those guys in. And you're going to see the bullpen door for the Brewers open up a whole lot over the course of the night with maybe Jordan Lyles, maybe Brent Suter, maybe Josh Hader, maybe Drew Pomerantz, guys like that coming in. I don't know if I can make a prediction because I think it's a 50-50 sort of deal, but I would be shocked if more than 6 or 7 runs between the two teams are scored in this game.
Matt, we certainly appreciate it. At Matt Pauley on air on Twitter for all the Brew Crew folks out this way. You follow him and listen into the pre- and post-game show. It's October. It's the postseason. Matt, thanks so much. Enjoy the best time of year, okay?
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Matt Pauley. getting it done. Nats, Brewers tonight. 6:08 first pitch coming up, man. I had 20 minutes away here on ESPN Radio. Can't wait. Take a quick break. We'll come back on the other side. What a just debacle Monday Night Football was last night. One of the worst games I've seen in my entire life, and certainly this season in the NFL. Just awful. The Bengals should just be relegated. That's what we should do with them. Get them out of here. Okay, but we're going to talk about it. Why? Because it's football. That's what we do. And continue to take your calls in the back and following on Instagram to win tickets to the Grizzly Idaho State homecoming football game. So there you go. We'll get all of that stuff. It is the 1st of October. The leaves are falling. And you know where they're going? Into your gutters. They're getting stuck in there, clogging things up, messing the whole deal up. Then it freezes. Then your gutter explodes. Now you're wrecked. Okay? Don't let that happen. Go to MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. Cleaning, it sucks. We all know. It's messy, it's muddy, it's bad, you don't like it. Ladders are a pain. Walking a roof is a recipe for a broken leg. Don't waste your time, and don't injure yourself. You go to MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. You get an estimate right now. They're insured. They're good at what they do. They are prepared. They're professionals. And you know what? They're good. They're good people. They're fun. Okay? You're gonna enjoy your experience with MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. You go on there, get the estimate, and when the work is done, you're gonna get a $20 gift card to your favorite brewery or coffee shop. How great is that? Get your weekend back, get your time back, take the risk out of it, and get the cleaning done that you need to have done. Online, MissoulaGutterCleaning.com.
The big skies are open. Go wild with Opportunity Reward Checking. Go ahead, jump, dance, shout. Opportunity Reward Checking will make you do that. Go wild when you get your 1% cash back on qualified debit card purchases. It all starts with an Opportunity Reward Checking account from Opportunity Bank. Visit a branch today to get started. Then go wild and spend your 1% cash back however you want. Go wild with Reward Checking from Opportunity Bank. Some restrictions may apply. Member FDIC.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. You know, we've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
Hey everybody, Ryan Tootell, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
Everyone knows there's 2 types of football fans, those who prefer college and those who go pro. The good news is the Desperado Sports Tavern doesn't discriminate, at least not when it comes to American football. Whether you're a Saturday devotee or you like your pigskin on Sundays, you can catch all the games at the Desperado. You're guaranteed to enjoy their juicy burgers, amazing hot wings, and ice-cold brews any day of the week. You don't go in expecting any hoorah about the CFL. Ain't nobody got time for that. The Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell, across from the Y.
Hey everybody, Ryan Tootell, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
An opening reception for Festival of Remembrance is this Friday, 5 to 8 at the Artist Shop, 127 North Higgins, downtown Missoula. Honor, Remember is a group exhibition of mixed media by artists Bobby Tilton, Renee Taff, David Miles Lusk, Marlise Borchers, Patricia Thornton, Kathy Paoli, Gretel Stout, Katrina Rumland, Tim Thornton, and Bev Gluckart. Individuals are invited to contribute a small sentiment to the community shrine in honor of loved ones who have passed. Find a Festival of Remembrance on Facebook for more details on this month-long series of events.
If it matters to Missoula, it matters to us. Ryan Tootell and Coulter Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Hard to handle now.
1029 ESPN Radio. Keep calling people, 329-1899. Keep registering for those tickets. They go to the Grizzly Idaho State homecoming football game, 329-1899. The phone number you call, give us your name, your information, and then on Thursday we're going to pick a name out. You're going to give us your best homecoming story. You can also follow on Instagram at 1029ESPN. It's just that simple. 1029ESPN, the new Instagram handle. You follow there. You're also entered to win the tickets, and we'll get a hold of you and get a story from you that way. Okay? How fun is that? It's Tootell Nuanez. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the show, check it out on the podcast. Podcast available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. The podcasts are available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Also, tomorrow, we will be putting out our second episode of the FCS Speculators, a betting podcast. Looking forward to putting this thing out there. We got a couple of guests on the podcast for this week, and we did fairly well, Coulter, you and I, this past week. So we'll review our picks across the Big Sky Conference and across the nation at the FCS level against the number and the over and unders, and it's it's fun, man. Get in there and banter a little bit about it.
It is fun. I also think that when you're doing it against the spread and you're doing over-unders and stuff, it definitely adds a new element to it. I was going through some of my old notes. I always put pencil to paper and do a full Big Sky Conference prediction when I make my poll, and then I adjust it as each week when I'm picking games. I've been picking games for a while now, but not against the spread, not with gambling or any sort of Vegas lines attached to it or as a lens to enter through.
Just simply as a winner, just picking winners.
And I'm batting about 800. But that's different. It's different. It's way different. And I think the other thing is, though, is you realize just how unpredictable the Big Sky is. I mean, some of those statistics that David, our producer, came up with. I mean, Northern Colorado was second to last in the country in scoring offense and dead last in scoring defense coming into that game. That's incredible. That's incredible. You're losing games on average through 4 games, 45-10. How?
Yes.
That's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
And then they win. That's how unpredictable the Big Sky is.
Did they win?
Oh, man. We could do a whole segment on this. It's Colton Clark from the Lewistown Tribune had a Monday Morning Quarterback is his article, what he calls it, a little bit commentary about the Vandals. And he went through pretty much all the games in the last 3 years that the Vandals have blown when they've had 3-score leads under Paul Petrino. And it is an article that holds no punches. I would encourage people to read it. I cannot imagine what his next interview with Paul Petrino is going to be like, because Paul Petrino is, he's a surly guy to say the least anyways. And so if you go at him like that, I don't know. But it's a trend that Idaho has been blowing big leads for quite some time.
Hey, look, Jacob Knapp or otherwise, you lose to Northern Colorado, who's 0-4? No. People can go at you at that point, even with a win over Eastern Washington. Coulter, speaking of...
That's a great example of what I'm always talking about, though. You go and beat Eastern Washington when they're the number 11 team in the country. If you lose to Northern Colorado next week, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, and it's possible, as we've seen.
It's possible, right, and that's what I'm saying. That's like when you go beat UC Davis on the road, great. Congratulations if you're the Grizz. If you go lose to Idaho State, and Idaho State's better than Northern Colorado, make no mistake about that, but you go lose to Idaho State at home, there's no benefit. And again, the committee takes the bad losses into account more than the good wins. So if you go lose a bad game, it'll hurt you more than if you win a whole bunch of good ones.
I just wanted to mention about last night. That was as unwatchable an NFL football game as I have seen in a long time.
Well, that's good to hear because I did not watch it.
Even
I didn't even look at it.
Even like Baltimore-Miami week 1 in an absolute blowout, a game that was never close, was at least interesting. This was unwatchable football. The offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals is as bad as I've seen an NFL offensive line in my life.
This is another thing that I'm always talking about. Regardless of where you invest, when you decide to not invest, I mean, the Bengals had, for real, the best. I mean, there was a article in Sports Illustrated. Bengals had the same offensive line coach for 27 years, and there was a point where the Bengals had what most people considered the best offensive line in the AFC and maybe the best offensive line in the NFL. Andrew Whitworth is a Hall of Famer. They got rid of him. they had the kid from Alabama who was overweight when he first got in the league, and he kind of played himself into shape. You know who I'm talking about? Andre Smith, who was he was supposed to be the number 1 overall pick, and then he showed up to the combine really, really fat, but he still was a guy that was in the first round. And then they got him into shape, and they had, I think, 3 Pro Bowlers on that offensive line. They decided to stop investing in it. Look what happens. You look like a laughing stock. That's the easiest way to look bad in the NFL too, is if you can't protect the passer. Because guess what? NFL teams do not care.
Well, let me tell you
something.
It
is jailbreak.
Say what you want to say about Andy Dalton, but for him to stand in there and know that there is no chance that any football is getting out and just take hit after hit after hit and get up again and again. My respect for Andy Dalton actually grew a little bit last night, but it was an I mean, the Steelers aren't great. They're 0-3. They don't have a quarterback. Mason Rudolph, I said I like Mason Rudolph. I don't like Mason Rudolph anymore after watching that game. He did not look good. They're running all kinds of college stuff, having running backs doing +1 run game. It's bad.
They got a leaky ship, though, too, right now, man. They do. They have a leaky ship.
And they hammered the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, yeah, they hammered them for sure.
27-3.
The Steelers, though, it's going to be really fascinating because Mike Tomlin has been so great. But is Mike Tomlin actually great? Has he been steering the ship, or has he been navigating through dark waters? There's a difference, right? Mike Tomlin inherited what was the most stable ship in the NFL. When you get into the storm, how do you get yourself back out of it? And I don't know if he can do that. I just don't know if he's that type of coach. I mean, he was handed the keys, and then all of a sudden, then they had 15 straight winning seasons, and he deserves credit for that for sure. But when it goes bad, can he get it back out? And it's gone real bad for them. And I think that all the stuff that's coming out about Ben Roethlisberger and the fact that, and he does deserve credit for keeping Antonio Brown in check to the very end, because now we see full display how crazy Antonio Brown is. But I just want to know if Tomlin can actually steer them out of what is going to be probably a tough year for Pittsburgh.
Well, I mean, it's not looking good for for either of those teams. It's, by the way, looking very good for the Cleveland Browns all of a sudden. At Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Boys and girls, thanks for being with us on a Tuesday afternoon. Enjoy Game 1 of the MLB postseason. The Milwaukee Brewers at the Washington Nationals. We send you to the nation's capital to enjoy the start of October. We'll see you tomorrow, ESPN Radio.
Chicks and Chaps helps Montanans impacted by breast cancer. Florence Coffee is offering a limited time special mug with art by Larry Perney to help the cause. Through October, when you purchase one of these special mugs for $25, $10 goes to Chicks and Chaps. Stop by any Florence Coffee location to pick up yours or go to FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
The best flavor under the big sky. Florence Coffee Company.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
We ate a lot of steaks before we came up with the Montana Club's Private Reserve Cut Angus. It's as good a steak as you're going to get. Our Private Reserve